Right now, in response, government says it's developed an integrated and holistic plan that is African language centered. I'm now joined by the department's Kulula Manona and Andile Dube, who is an education specialist at UNICEF. I'm going to ask the both of you to just make sure that you've switched your video on while we have this conversation, because of course we need the viewers to also see who we are speaking to. Andile, let me just start with you as an education specialist, especially for UNICEF that looks across so many parts of the world in terms of education. The plan that the Basic Education Department has in terms of making it a language-based type of education to assist pupils, do you think that's a good plan?
Good afternoon and good afternoon to your viewers. Of course, it gets very difficult to compare South Africa with most of the countries. That is because South Africa firstly has more home language or African languages, and when we are looking at assessments and we are looking at proficiency for learners, we are not only looking at just English as a language of teaching and learning or home language. We are looking at least all African languages in South Africa. And so to compare sometimes becomes very difficult. But plans globally, they would be based on what evidence already shows. In the case of South Africa, there is a number of pieces of evidence that shows where we are and what we need to do. Firstly, PALS, which is one of the programs that have been, of evaluations that have been just released, which you are referring to. Secondly, the system has what is called systemic evaluation, but there are also other pieces of evidence that look at early grade reading programs and where we are in South Africa and how do we need to move. And so the plan has to use all of those pieces of evidence to define what is relevant for South Africa as a country, but what is relevant for South Africa compared to other countries. And so if you look at what is happening currently with the plan that is under review, it looks at a number of areas which need attention. It looks at what is happening in the classroom, what is the science of reading that needs to be implemented in South Africa. And we actually applaud the government for thinking or putting through a number of experts in the field who look at African language as the proxy for learning in other languages. And so the plan has good promises. It is a promising piece of a plan which still needs a little bit of more of work, which of course is not finalized. And we are staying very close to the development of that plan to see how it addresses the issues of South Africa as a country and children in South Africa.
All right, Kulula, let me come to you. Of course, Andile mentioning pearls, for instance, which is something that the minister spoke about yesterday, and some of the specialists from the education department saying that it didn't consider the fact that in South Africa we have 11 official languages, and maybe the countries that they were comparing us to had only one medium of instruction. So maybe unfair on that part in terms of how they evaluate us?
I don't think that I really want to talk about the fairness or the unfairness of the assessment. We participated knowing exactly what it is going to look like, knowing that we are to present children who are going to be taking that assessment in 11 different languages. Yes, Minister is correct. We are the only country who has quite an expansive bouquet of languages. At most other countries present in 2 languages. Does that present a bit of a disadvantage for our children? I think it's a number of issues that present a disadvantage for our children when it comes to language. And I think Andile has begun to sketch out for us, perhaps, the context under which these languages are being presented for our children. They are actually also taught by teachers who are prepared in the medium which is not in these languages. In most cases, they are prepared in the medium of English and are expected to go to class and then be able to convert that and deliver learning and deliver particularly reading literacy in the medium in which they were never prepared. And we also know that we are currently expecting our children to transition into English, most of them, when they get to grade 4. And that is the age group that actually set for those assessments. That age group set for the assessments towards the end of the year of their grade 4 schooling year, which was the year of their transitioning into English, and then they are expected to go back and take an assessment in the language that was their lot up until the year before. So there is a whole lot of other reasons, really, besides the fact that it's just the 11 languages. It is really about how do we position those languages to be able to be efficiently and really be able to deliver learning, particularly reading literacy and learning around literacy, using the medium of those languages. Do we have enough quality resources like books to be able to support that? Are our teachers prepared to be able to support delivering learning in the medium of these languages? And this is what we are confronting with the process of redesigning our strategy that Andile referred to. And the fortunate thing is that she's part of that creation of that strategy. She's correct when she's saying that we have tapped into the expertise in the sector to draw on that expertise to be able to support us in developing this holistic strategy that will be able to promote African languages as a medium through which we want to teach reading literacy for our children and support our teachers to be able to do that.
And home language or mother tongue has been a topic for quite a while in the education sector in South Africa, where a lot of people have been saying that maybe we should test this out to see if kids will do better if you teach them in their mother tongue. So now, Kulula, how easy or difficult would this be administratively, especially in provinces such as such as Gauteng, for instance? When you go to a province such as Limpopo, you know that you're expecting a large majority to be speaking Sepedi, Lobedu, Chivenda, Tsonga, etc. And then when you go to the northwest, you know it's Setswana, Afrikaans, English. But when you come to Gauteng, it's a whole score of different languages, including in some instances, children who are here with their parents who are from other countries outside of South Africa. How easy or difficult will this be to actually implement?
Indeed, Gauteng is a melting pot. But talking about how easy it would be to implement, it wouldn't be that difficult to implement because each language is unique and there are similarities between language groups. For instance, when you are, as government, to roll out a program of that nature, it needs to be developed, it needs to be designed, and so in the design principles to take into account a number of things, including languages. Fortunately, we already have it tested in one language. It has been tested in isiXhosa in the Eastern Cape, and the Eastern Cape has developed a full suite of teaching and learning, including resources to accompany that, support of teachers through continuing professional development and teacher training and capacity building of subject advisors. So these are the elements that would eventually inform whether the state is ready to roll out such a project. So we already have it tested, and it has given good results that it is something that can be done. So using the lessons from isiXhosa, it would be easy for us to then take that and use the lessons, not version what we have in isiXhosa into other languages, but use those lessons, use the design principles to design this for other languages, and then be able to roll it out.
Yeah. And Andile, how important is a parent's buy-in as a stakeholder? Because, you know, we've stressed so many times, the minister has also stressed so many times how important it is that your child's education doesn't end at the school gate. When they get home as a parent, there's things that you need to do to make sure that, they're able to, and maybe it'll be easy even for some parents once they can also feel comfortable explaining things to their children in their mother tongue.
Very important subject. It is very important for parents to be involved in the education of their children. It's very important for learning all language subjects, but it's also particularly important for learning reading. We do know that in all of the communication that we provide for parents, we always constantly remind them of the value of their commitment and of their contribution toward their children's education and how they support their children. But the reality is parents might want to be involved, but they do not know how. So part of the drive for South Africa would be to capacitate parents to be involved in the reading or in the learning or in every subject for their children. But particularly for reading, it is how we actually support parents to be able to support their children when it comes to reading. Despite all of the challenges that these parents are experiencing, whether it is the conditions within which they live, whether it is the contextual issues, whether it's what they believe about what it takes to support their children, or whether it is access to the actual resources for reading. But parental involvement is one of the most critical components or pillars for supporting children in their education and particularly in reading.
And how, how does the fact that ECD, Andile, has been moved from the Department of Social Development to the Department of Basic Education, will that also assist in playing a role? Because, grade 4 pupils, we're talking about early childhood development before you get to grade 4. So that move, will it assist?
It definitely will. The move of ECD to the Department of Basic Education ensures that when we are defining policies, when we are dealing with norms and standards, when we are talking about what curriculum should go into early childhood development, it is owned by one department. However, there is a role for other departments in supporting early childhood development, be it health, who looks at the healthy component of contribution to children's development and cognitive development, be it social development, where we look at protection and other related issues, or just participating in ensuring that the system works perfectly for the children. But Department of Basic Education has to continue to own and strengthen their role as the curriculum developers or curriculum policy owners, as the owner of the whole school to work transition for their children, and just making sure that all the standards that needs to be there for early childhood development are there. But there is a huge value in children who actually receive quality early childhood development, particularly before we start even in grade R, before we are looking at any basic education or schooling system. All children have to get access to early childhood development, which is quality, and the role of Department of Basic Education is quite critical. We do hope that as we continue to ensure access for children, the Department of Basic Education continues to ensure that all of the children who are supposed to be in the schooling or in the early childhood development are provided with opportunities for access. But it's not only access, it's access and quality going hand in hand.
And we all know how many provinces we're talking about in South Africa, especially those ones with vast rural areas. Those are the ones we're worried about. And COVID-19 also just showed us even more what a problem those areas are. Kulula, I'm going to just come to you in terms of, South Africa always being accused by different organizations, sometimes even in the media, about the fact that we have beautiful policies in black and white, but the implementation thereof lacks in many instances. And we all know the mammoth task that the Education Department has. You don't only have this to fix, you have infrastructure to fix, you have many other issues pertaining to, for instance, your pit latrines at schools, etc. And I understand that Pearls assesses every 5 years. I'm hoping that you can tell us some time frame so that in the next 5 years you and I are not back here discussing that 80% of grade 4 pupils are not reading for understanding.
You're absolutely right. Sometimes really the challenge with us is in implementation. And I want to commend South Africa, particularly their reading ecosystem that we have, because they are our mirrors, they are our reflection as we are developing this strategy. So the strategy will not be complete without it being complemented by a plan, which is a plan that is an implementable plan. And when we talk about implementation, we know that the sites of implementation are actually our provinces. And so what we are doing here doesn't leave our provinces behind. And we know that provinces are led strategically through structures that a government has put in place, structures like the heads of departments, structures like the CEM, which are the Council of Executive Members. And these are the people that are supporting us in developing this strategy. But the issue of implementation also really links very heavily with capacity. our province is capacitated to be able to deliver on this plan that we are developing. And we're developing this plan, as Andile has said, together with the sector. Are the homes as well going to be ready to be able to drive what happens at school by complementing it with what is going to be happening at homes? And I want to say that actually we have received a beautiful report from the National Reading Survey and the National Reading Barometer that showed that South Africa is writing a new chapter when it comes to just the appetite of households, parents, and communities in terms of understanding the importance of reading, the positive statements that parents and caregivers were actually aligning themselves with about the importance of playing a role in ensuring that what is happening at school gets supported by what is happening in homes. There is funding that has to go behind any plan for that plan to really be implemented, and we are engaging with National Treasury so that we don't have these beautiful plans that you are referring to, which seem like a pie in the sky that is not implementable. So we are looking at capacity, we're looking at funding, and those are the enablers for the plans. We're also looking at strengthening our own institutional mechanisms, including accountability, including monitoring and oversight, how we're going to heighten that to ensure that what we commit to, we will be able to ensure that we deliver to what we commit to. And you spoke about the 5 years. The systemic evaluations intervals are 3 years. So within a space of 3 years, we will know if we have made any movement. We will know, because that is what we also need to improve. What if we want to have implementable plans that are going to give us what we want, it's to improve on the feedback loop. And so that systemic evaluation is going to be that feedback loop and a tool or instrument to ensure that we keep on track with what we are putting together currently.
All right. Kulula, Manona, the Director of Reading Promotion at the Department of Basic Education, and Andile Dube, an education specialist at UNICEF. Thank you very much to you both for your time.